Now it looks like people are there.
Got people there now?
Can we try it again?
Can we try again?
People try again.
Yeah.
Don't ask them to try again. Should be up.
People are getting in now.
Yeah, looks like it.
All right, we'll give it about 30 seconds here, let people rejoin.
I'll give it a second, see if anybody else can.
I'll give it a year. I shut it off for now, so. but- Thank you. Get anybody in?
There's plenty of people adding.
Sure. Hang on, there's still people.
Technology wonderful.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that.
Isn't it though?
It's clear that I think it's fixed, it's just waiting so that everyone can get their spot.
There's people coming in.
One more.
You guys got one.
We've got one that's still sitting there.
Well, she's here.
Okay, she's here. And she's in. I don't know what that one either.
One might be my kid.
Yeah.
So your wife's having a hard time getting in.
Yes, Tricia.
Oh, she got it.
It's
It just says joining.
She was trying to get in.
Okay. Oh, she said got it. That's all.
Okay, so she's good?
Got it.
I don't know. You don't understand God language? Come on.
God, it means a lot of different things. You'd have to hear it and see her face to understand what exactly she means.
Okay, she's good. I don't know either.
I think she's in here.
Yep, she's in on this one, but. she'll-
She's in?
Yep.
Okay. So I think we have everybody now. So is that okay over there?
No, you're here.
Okay. So, as I noted earlier, regrettably, we will, accept Carrie's, we have accepted Carrie's resignation. And on that note, I would ask the council to, accept my resignation as mayor and from the council of Baltic effective immediately.
I make a motion to approve.
Second it.
Motion a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks.
Thank you. Since I am the president of the city council, I now move in as acting mayor, and I need to resign my council seat at this time, so I resign my council seat in Ward 2. There will be an appointment to fill my seat.
So do we have to accept your?
You have to accept my resignation.
Sure. Can I make a motion to accept your resignation? One second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
John?
Point of order, that's
Yes,
great,
no, please.
but there should be a motion and a second to appoint you as acting mayor.
Oh, Okay, then I guess appoint yourself.
I'll make a motion
Okay.
to
Yeah.
move you. as
Move me into
president
mayor, or appoint me into mayor. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
You now have an open spot for president of the council,
Yes.
so you could take that up if you wish.
That's between you. Can we do that? We don't have a quorum right now.
We do. have
Well,
a
yes, you
quorum.
do.
We do have. a
Under
quorum
state
right now.
law, the remaining members
The remaining
are the
members, they
They
quorum.
are the quorum.
Okay. I
Right,
can't do anything with that, so yeah.
you're recused, right?
Yes, you're recused from-
These two, if they vote together, can elect a new
Yeah.
president.
You guys can only move together at that, in unison as you have to agree.
Yes, no, I understand. Yep, I'll make a motion to appoint Brendan as president. Look, city council. And I can second it.
I can't do anything, so.
Brendan, you have to second that motion.
You, yes.
Okay, oh, fine, okay,
I
perfect, okay,
If it
good.
okay here, I seconded it, I'm sorry.
I should cut his hands down.
We need to do vice president too, John? I was gonna say.
Do we have to do vice president?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
And then obviously I will appoint Travis Shears as vice president.
Well, you need to,
Make a
I
motion.
know it's goofy, but you guys are it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Now, with that being said,
So now I can make a motion. Okay, since now the Ward 2 seat is open, that Tracy had, it is my belief that we can appoint someone into that Ward 2 seat.
You can move.
I can,
Make a
I
motion.
can make a motion to appoint Kiri Sells and Ward 2. For the seat of Ward 2.
I will second.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Did everyone follow?
Did everyone follow that?
I was just gonna say, did everyone
I did.
understand what
You should have.
Did everyone follow that?
Hey, Tracy, just another point of order. You should swear in Gary.
She needs to actually read an oath of office, and
Yep.
Travis, we can have yours on chat, I believe. We can read from her. Right.
Do you have the oath?
I think I do.
Awesome. And then Tracy, do you want to stand and swear Gary in?
She just has to read it, right?
Right.
We're finding it.
Yeah, I'm looking for the oath right now, we didn't have it printed out.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that everyone understood exactly what happened there. It doesn't sound like any too many questions, and I'm looking online, but sounds like everybody's good.
So if you're you're the mayor now,
Yes.
you're the president of the council, you're vice president, you're gonna be Ward 2, and we still have a position in Ward 1.
Correct.
Yes.
Got it,
Yeah, Ward 1 is vacant.
got it.
Correct.
I don't have the.
I could probably wing this. Gary, I'm a notary on top of it.
Yeah.
You want to raise your right hand, Gary? You solemnly swear that you will full and faithfully carry out the duties of alderman in Ward 2 and give a true and faithful account for all monies and property that may come into your possession, and that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
I do.
Bingo.
Did you get all those minutes?
Yeah, exactly.
You record that.
Next is disbursements. Can
Yeah, this first.
I get a motion?
Yes, I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's good. Okay, now we're on to public time.
That's me.
Deborah, how do you say McIsaac?
If you can say it right the first time, you get a t-shirt, yes.
McIsaac?
Yes.
I wear red. There you go.
Well, I took this public time in an effort to try to make a case to keep Carrie in Ward 1. And through lots of hours and lots of conversations with lots of people, and John, who was quite exasperated talking to me, I'll say. We really couldn't find a path. There was no legal path to keep her in Ward 1. We tried hard, we looked at everything. And so with that, Carrie was more than willing to resign, but it looks like that you guys were very creative in finding some solutions to make things happen. I'm not exactly in full support of how that all went down, but you guys have the decision to do that, and I'm really sad to see Scott go. He was very easy to talk to and did some good things for the community, so I just want that to be said. So because I don't have a case to make, and you are representing, I will say that the next step, and I put all this in that Making Baltic Better group, and so if you want to see all of the research, you can do that. If you're a citizen of Baltic within the city limits, you can be part of that group, and I'd be happy to bring you in. It's just it's a vehicle to communicate between the city government and the residents of the government. There's no nefarious purpose in this group at all, and so all are welcome. And what I will say is that when the census comes out, which is the next step to be able to evaluate the wards, we're absolutely going to be active in that process to make sure that all the counts are right and that the wards make sense and the lines aren't weird and that type of thing. And so I feel pretty educated in that process now, so I'm happy to help in that process. And another thing that I would suggest, in light of the fact that we found some less than desirable inaccuracies in processes and ordinances and things like that, I do think it would be worth recommending having a group of citizens that are interested and wanting to evaluate the many ordinances in our city, because these guys, they get a lot of their time. And there's a load that they are already carrying, and now that everybody is completely rearranged, I'm sure it's gonna be even that much more of a lift. So if we as citizens wanna step up and help them in that process, I'm sure that they would appreciate us maybe reviewing some of the things in the past that there wasn't any intended mistakes made, but maybe there's just something that was oversaw, like the ward lines, or maybe planning and zoning, or other things in our community that we need to do to make things go well. And so if there are people that are interested in doing that, and if you as council would be interested in getting some help in that kind of process, so we're not in a situation like this anymore, and we can get ahead of it and not be in uncomfortable positions like this, I think it would be well worth our time. So I guess my suggestion is completely different than what I had originally intended to use this time for, but I do think it's a part of us all being active citizens of this community and helping these guys make Baltic better. So there's my time.
I'm looking at a lot of people. Do we have a lot of public that wants to talk tonight? Who wants to be next?
I'm wondering, John, would you feel comfortable explaining the word situation in the process of discovery?
Sure, whatever.
I just asked John if he would be comfortable explaining. I don't know if everyone's aware of what happened on the ward end of things and how it came to be. I'm sorry, Gary, I know you were ready to talk, but I just asked John if he could give us a little, I guess, quick rundown, for lack of a better term, of just exactly kind of what transpired, because it truly is a clerical error is what it comes to be. And we've made it a point the last 6 months to be transparent. We tried to be as transparent as possible, and not hiding anything. And anyone that has any questions on these zones, and I would like John to explain that so everyone's on the same page exactly what happened there, if you would, John.
Yeah, sure. For those of you that aren't familiar, I'm John Hughes. I've been your city attorney since there we go. Actually, Doug Burns will remember that there was a referral of the annexation petition for Baltic Heights back in '96, and Doug was on an airplane with a law school classmate of mine who was practicing in California. And so I came and helped with that process to, it was a pretty intense time. Maybe some of you here were in opposition to Baltic Ice development, which is fine, but it was a long process to develop an area and to move a project forward to develop a residential area in Baltic that hadn't happened on that scale, I don't think ever. So Mary Dean Janklow came and spoke at the dedication. For those of you who may not remember. Anyway, so basically, you know, as the city attorney, state law says that I give advice, I give opinions when I'm asked. And so I had nothing to do with the ward map. Julia Holford's predecessor basically did that. They did it. It drafted an ordinance back in 2011, and there is a ward map attached. It's very confusing, I will tell you. What we've discovered is that, you know, Douglas Boulevard and Douglas Avenue, Douglas Boulevard doesn't even show up on the CCOG map that we're looking at tonight. It's very, very confusing. And so basically on January 13th, Becca sent me an email and said, wow, guess what? The word language in this 2011 ordinance doesn't track with the map. And of course, the map that's attached is terrible. It's terrible. It's horrible. And I'm like, you're kidding? You mean we don't have like a color ward map with all the streets shown? Nope. So this is what we have to deal with. And so in good faith, Curie went in and pulled out a petition. I mean, I wasn't there, but the belief was that she was in Ward 1. We're going to enact a ordinance tonight that has a color map. I don't have it in front of me. This young lady had it on her phone. It's either pink or blue. I mean, it's pretty hard to screw that up.
It's true, it's clear.
Exactly. And so it's a clerical mistake. And I'm not here to, I mean, Julie had cancer, and I'm not trying to violate her privacy, but, and there's transitions going on within City Hall, just lots of growing pains, frankly. And we've got you know, people that are, you know, given some remuneration, but it's certainly nothing that's proportionate to the hours. And so what has happened is that we're revisiting by necessity this issue. And then along the way, it turns out there's some housekeeping to do on planning and zoning. And so it's all part of the way I look at it. It's growing pains. I mean, I will tell you, never in all the years that I've been involved has there been a group like this. Never, not once. I can't ever remember this much interest in city government. So I'm celebrating, frankly, even though this is painful. So that's how this ward map thing, I mean, basically what we're doing here is we now have, in my opinion, in fact, I've said this, you know, Scott's not here, but I've told this council, you're the most solid, broad-based, multi-talented group of people I've worked with in all these years. And it's a thrill for me to have a council that is actually challenging me and using me. And these guys know how to do that. And so, but this whole situation with Curie stemmed, I mean, it's a crappy map, you know, and I go on Google and I tried to save a map, which is way better than this, but I don't know how to save a Google map with all the street definition. But Douglas Drive is on here, but not Douglas Boulevard. It's screwed up. It's very difficult. And so, and when somebody pulls a map out of a drawer and hands it to someone that wants to circulate a nominating petition, it's a mistake. It's a screw up. It's a mistake. That's what it is. So.
Can I add to that?
Oh, by all means. Yeah.
So first of all, this all came down because, First of all, this all came down because I was asking what I needed to do to be on city council. I had asked last year, but I missed the deadline. So then I was like, we gotta have this stuff on the website because nobody knows what the deadlines are, you know, that kind of thing. And so then this year I thought, oh, I'm gonna get in there early and I'm gonna find out what you gotta do to be on city council. And so then I went to the website, found out what the ward lines were. We drew the map because there wasn't one. We just followed the description. And we're thinking, wait a minute, I'm in Ward 2. That doesn't make sense. And then Mark says, well, Carrie lives on your street. How can she represent Ward 1 when we're, when you're in Ward 2? So that's where this all started.
Right.
So if I hadn't been interested in government, you'd still be serving and everything would be fine. So my apologies for that. But just to feed on what you said, is that the ordinance has this crazy line, and it actually goes on 4th Street. It's a previous description from, I think, ordinance 234 from 2011.
Oh, I think you're right.
And so it's the description, it's the word description of 2011,
Right.
ordinance 234 that Elaine signed off on. And then when you went to do 238 to make a more sensible map, somehow the wrong description was pasted into 238.
Exactly.
So the ordinance was pasted with the description was completely outdated, but the map sent to the county for voter registration was that pink and blue map,
Right.
which goes up 5th Street, cuts over Lovely, goes up Douglas, and still does that weird fork thing on Douglas
Right.
Boulevard.
Oh, it does.
And then it goes on Elm over, up to 3rd Street and then up to the, like I said, I've done a lot of research. I can draw this with my mind now, right? And so, so that is where we're at right now. And then what happened to Carrie is she got a completely different map that completely showed that she was in Ward 1. So we were dealing with 3 different maps trying to figure this out. Then you cross-reference it with ordinances. And so all of us were working on different paths, but towards the same solution, and found out we're kind of in a pickle because of the deadlines for the election.
Exactly.
I mean, we already pushed back the election because we had talked about changing the ward line. So the election was already on January 14th, moved back to a June 6th election date, but that's still, it changes the deadlines, but it doesn't change the fact that we still have to post open positions by January or February 14th.
Right, right.
And then nomination forms have to be picked up by March 1st. And we still don't have a consistent ward line with the voting registration in the ordinance. And so in order, I was all up in arms, just owning my stuff, because when we were looking at the codified law, we saw that you could change ward lines based on voter registration via resolution. And so, well,
Yeah.
and so that, but then John very knowledgeably educated me, you can't change ward lines unless it's an ordinance.
Right.
And for those of you guys who don't understand, the ordinance process is a slow and arduous process, which is for a very good reason, because you don't want cities changing ordinances in a knee-jerk, willy-nilly reaction, right? So you have to do the first reading, then you have to wait 5 to 10 days, depending on the nature of the ordinance, and then you have to read it again, then you have to publish it, then it has to sit for 20 days to see if any of us want to fight about it, right? And then finally, if nobody wants to fight about it after 20 days, then it goes active. So with that kind of a deadline, there is no way for us to operate like a fully functioning democratic city and still allow Carrie to be in Ward 1 this election cycle. So we were out of options. So like I said, I don't agree with necessarily how this went down. I'm glad you're still on council. That's great. And I'm glad that you stepped up. I'm sorry that Scott resigned. It's not, I don't think it's what any of us wanted, but I think that covers up all the gaps.
Very well said. And the one piece left is that the map that you're going to use has to be on file more than 45 days
Yes,
before the election. So it's there's probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 different chapters of the codified laws
it's all fun.
in
All fun
different
reading.
titles you have to work through. But we, yeah, Deb's, she said it all very well, and that's exactly how it came down.
Okay. For public time. There you go.
Good evening. Since I don't, if anybody knows me, my name is Christopher Greer.
John,
Thanks.
A couple of things that I had people message me about this past weekend, obviously with Facebook page, there's a couple of them out there now for Baltic. And this, obviously Kenny, I think it's somewhere.
Ken's back there.
Can address it when it's his time as well. There's a lot of questions in regards to salt and sand on the roads, in certain spots. Again, personal preference, I guess. Some people want cleaner roads, some people are just fine with it. I just point of order question. And then another question that was brought up was sidewalks and snow removal for enforcement on that. I believe it's 24 hours after the snow stops. It has to be cleared or it can be fined. I don't know if we've been enforcing that, but someone pointed it out that, hey, it hasn't been done in the past, so that's why I'm bringing it up. So that's all I had.
Well, yeah, is there, and who would be the guy to say, is fire hydrants is another thing that I have a lot of concern about. And is there anybody checking those? I know the fire department checks here and there, but I've seen some completely understood before, so I don't know if that's within.
As a code enforcement officer, I will take note and start sending out numbers.
Thank you, Bill.
Now, understand that there is sidewalks in the older part of town that are under maintenance that need to be addressed as well. So I will be working on them this summer. So people that have sidewalks in front of their yards, and whatnot else that aren't maintained, will be maintained. And once it needs to be cleared and snowed, we'll start sending out notices immediately.
We're still in public time. We're still in public time. Anyone else? Well, I'm standing up, moving. I didn't know I was gonna get my steps tonight.
Hi, my name is Shonda. I live on Moorefield and First Avenue. I actually have a couple things. So I was the one originally to request a change in city ordinance 90.009. As stated, such no person shall keep any animal within the city limits unless such animal is of a type commonly regarded as a domestic animal, unless otherwise allowed by special exception of the city council. The keeping of animals on any personal land in the city shall not be a scale creating a nuisance. The prohibition includes the domestic fowl of the order Galliformis and gallinaceous birds, fowl-like birds, and also includes raptors, birds of prey, and common farm animals such as cows, pigs, horses, and sheep. So, I have officially printed out and would like to start a formal petition to have the city, as the townspeople, to have that changed. I do have flyers here with some reasons as to why they should be allowed here. If anybody would like some information on that.
What animal are you? Yeah, what are you targeting?
So, back in April, my husband and I, because at one point in time, there was an allowance to have chickens. It was an allowance of 4 without a permit, as long as they were being kept in a manner that was not a nuisance to neighbors. There wasn't any other restrictions to it, but the reason why that it had been changed, and unbeknownst to my knowledge, I did not know that at the time of the purchase. The city had decided after they had some issues with a bird of prey ending up involved and the neighbors complaining very frequently to the city about it, they changed the city ordinance to allow none such thing. There was no allowance of chickens, no allowance of birds of prey, no keeping of pigeons, none whatsoever, across the board. They cleared everything. And unfortunately, I was not the only subject that was part of the negative aspect of it, seeing this change. I know of a couple and heard little rumors that they had a pair of ducks that follow you around like dogs. It's kind of cute, you know, just thinking about it. But unfortunately, they had to get rid of their ducks because of the same ordinance. Now, I can understand some people's reasoning as to why people shouldn't have them here. They're farm animals, and I understand that. But as long as they are maintained properly and you have the needs to dispose of any fecal matter, or urine, or anything like that, it can actually be quite enjoyable. And because I have an elder at home, when we did have our chickens for the 2 months he was really happy with them. It was exciting to see him go out into the backyard and let them out, roam for a couple hours as he sat there and just watched them pick around the garden and play. So,
Okay, so you've got your petition
yes,
that you're going to get signed and your reasoning for it.
yes.
Okay, that's your first issue. What's your next one?
So I have copied some of the city ordinances. 920.002, running at large prohibited. It shall be unlawful for any person to have any animal which is owned, kept, harbored, or allowed to be habitually in or upon the premises occupied by the owner or under the owner's control to be at large and go into or upon the private premises of others or upon any public property. Any animal found in or upon the private premises of others or upon any public property in violation hereof shall be impounded by the animal control officer or designated animal control agency. Whenever an animal is found running at large, the same shall constitute prima facie evidence that the owner permitted it to run at large. So basically, from my understanding, it's a dog that's unleashed and is roaming freely, can be impounded.
Correct.
No owner, keeper, caretaker, or attendant of an animal shall allow an animal to defecate or urine on public or private property other than his own. If such animal does defecate or urinate upon public or private property, the owner, keeper, caretaker, or attendant must immediately and thoroughly clean the fecal matter from such property. Anyone walking an animal on public or private property other than his or her own must carry with him or her visible means of cleaning up any fecal matter left by the animal. Animals used in parades or involved in law enforcement are exempt from this section. So,
Your issue with that is?
I would like to notify the Baltic City Council that I have witnessed, or I am the representative of witness that have observed an animal at large. In this, I would like to notify the city that Dan England has allowed his dog Charlie to run between his rented storage unit and his home on Moorfield and First Street. There have been occurrences that he has come over to my yard and wandered within my property. Although Dan and his son Adam and his daughter Vivian had called his name, he only came back to them when Charlie was ready to. As for a specific incident, we ended up with Charlie on our front steps. I went to do the neighborly thing and wanted to bring Charlie back to the Englands, was greeted with a low growl from Charlie on my own steps as I tried to walk out the door and coax him home. Because of this particular incident, I do not allow my children around Charlie because they never have control of him, i.e. unleashed, and does not always respond to his owner's calls.
Okay, so that's your issue with 90 or 920.002, correct? That's the ordinance, that's your
That's
question.
not
because
me.
That would be, is that something that you would deal with? Or is that something that we need to
First of all,
call?
if you see it, take pictures of it. Second of all, the city notifies them, will file a complaint. Third of all, call animal, Humane Society.
Humane
Yeah.
Society.
I have further on that.
Okay.
I have
That's
another
how you
issue.
handle that.
Yep.
Okay,
I have another issue with the same topic. I am the witness and representative of this animal. At the end of our block on Moorfield and Second Street, we have a neighbor named Bill, whom I do not know the last name. He is the owner of Luke. Luke is a great runner, as we have had him blow past us in the summer while out in our backyard on our own property. As such, he has allowed Luke to run through everyone's yards as he pleases without even a thought to how we as neighbors would feel about that. I can also admit that Luke has had a problem with growling and biting people, even children on bikes. I ended up having to walk up to Bill's. I ended up having to walk up to Bill's home where my sons were riding their bikes, and ended up walking my two sons home because Luke continued to bite the bike and chase them down the sidewalk as they rode past. I have also been walking past his home, going to the homecoming parade with my youngest son, when Luke followed behind me and my husband and growled at us. I was very fearful of this dog because I had my 1.5-year-old son at the time. Bill also has a very blind dog, black in color, who is allowed to roam. She has been found in the road standing there with no one watching and as we attempted to coax her back from our vehicle to go back home. As such, both dogs have been allowed to wander their own yards and everyone else's as they see fit without care to the owners. There are many incidents that I have seen an owner walking past our house with a dog off leash. While there are some that do have leashes, I would like the city to take more action towards enforcing the leash laws in the city of Baltic as it is a city ordinance.
We'll take that to advisement. Thank you.
Have you filed a complaint with the city when this happened?
I have actually called animal control on Bill
Yep.
because my sister had walked past them about a month and a half ago. And as she's walking past, Luke came up and tried to bite her in the leg. My sister's boyfriend actually ended up kicking him in the head because he was going to attack my sister.
So did
So I
you-
ended up calling animal control.
Yeah, I'm asking if you filed a complaint with the city itself about this matter, because we don't, if animal control is called, we don't ever hear anything about it or know anything about it. It's not this city side.
I think I have actually called Julia about it before, saying that Dan has had his dog Charlie over in the cities, or in the elevators property, and I don't appreciate that. I mean, if there's a leash law, I would appreciate it to be followed because I do it.
Rebecca,
Yes,
can you get on the iWorks on that?
I cannot.
Okay. If there's been a call or whatnot else, we have a new system that went in effect last October that has all the code enforcement regulations, all the calls, all the notices that we have on it. And I don't remember any of those ever notified after that.
Okay.
And we can't do anything unless we get notified. We can send letters out immediately. We send emails out instantaneously. We file the deal, we can hit a button and it sends out or prints out a letter, goes in the mail.
Yeah, it's a new software we just started so that it doesn't take so
Yeah.
long for that.
And I understand that you have.
But as long as we get notified, we can send that. So that's why we're asking, because
But
We
if
can
we
send
don't
it,
know what's
we just-
happening, we can't do
Yeah.
anything about it.
Well, that's the reason why I'm here, because at some point in time, I lost my faith in the city of Baltic. There hasn't been a point where I felt that my voice was being heard. And there's a lot of people in Baltic that feel that way. That's
like we just said, if you don't come to us, we're not going to know that. So I appreciate you coming and talking about these two. Is there another one that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sidewalk construction specifications. 91.16. All sidewalk construction shall be in conformity with the specifications of the city's engineer. When considered necessary and advisable for the peace, welfare, and safety of the people, the city council may direct that new sidewalk be constructed and assessed to the abutting property owner in accordance with SDCL 9-46. As a witness of this, I am permitted to notify the city of Baltic of sidewalks that are in disarray. Dan England, Bud Spanky, and Bill, as mentioned earlier, and the property of 110 has missing, broken, and damaged sidewalks. This has been a deterrent to my children and myself to walk, ride, or travel upon because of said conditions. Because this is an existing sidewalk, I see in the ordinance that the city has the allowance to enforce this rule. I bring this up today as in the safety of all Baltic residents traveling along these paths. I hope to see that the city takes the proper action and enforces the ordinance as it is to be followed.
Again, I don't walk over there, so I wouldn't have known that, and I don't know if any of you that live over there. So like we said, if you bring it to us, we will certainly,
Yeah, and this is me
Okay.
doing it.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
I also have another issue. I don't know if this has been brought up about the trees that are on the city's property next to my house. But, a couple ordinance, the tree board, I think it was called,
What side of your house? Sorry.
it would be the west side of my house.
West side. Okay, thank you.
Where
I'm
the road-
not 100% for sure where you
Yeah,
live, so.
where First Street ends into a turn, that is
Okay.
supposed to be continuation of the road.
Okay.
If the property behind us were to be developed, at this point, it is a vacant area.
Okay.
With 2 trees.
Okay.
Um,
And what's your
the-
issue with the tree?
the tree that is next to us has, been determined to be a problem for easement. So at this point, we have had a couple people come in and tell us that the tree roots, you can follow them around the front of our house from the corner and back. So we have little sprouts coming up along the side of our house that are from the city's specific tree, right there, 5 feet off of my property, going around and up the sidewalk, underneath my bay window in the back.
Here's my suggestion, and I don't know, with that, do you wanna go take a look at that? See where we stand with that?
It's on the list already.
It's on the list? Okay, he will come and look at that and tell us his findings, and we will get back to you on how to proceed, because I'm sure there's something that we're gonna have to talk to John about on this aspect, but we will get back to you on that, and we'll have Bill go look at it, and,
I have actually spoken to Jeff Feigen from Feigen Tree Services,
okay,
and they said that they could quote me or you
okay,
$3,000 to remove that specific tree. And I can't remember what the other one was. But at this point, the reason why we had a tree removal service over at our house is because we have a rust issue with our 3 evergreens in the front yard, which are to be removed on February 25th. We have a mold issue with our 2 sugar maples in the back that are to be removed, and in the much larger sugar maple that we have, we have gone over with Fit Lawn, and they have come and done some services for us. They notified us that our tree is infested with carpenter ants.
Okay.
So that is the main
so
focus of that.
you've got a focus on your own property that you're taking care of.
Yes,
And you want us to take care of this too, okay. So Bill will go and check that out, he'll advise us what he sees, just because I don't know what I'm talking about if I were to go look at it. And we will discuss what needs to happen next amongst us as a council and our lawyer, and we'll have to get back to you on that. I can't give you an answer right now, I apologize, but
that's fine.
it's definitely will be on our list. If Bill has it on his list, we will have a discussion.
Okay, I was just, like I said.
Yeah, no,
making sure
I get, I
everything's
totally
being clearly
understand.
said.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, I have another one.
Okay,
Places where stopping, standing, and parking are prohibited. Except when necessary to avoid conflict with other traffic or in compliance with law or directions of a law enforcement officer or official traffic code device, no person shall stop, stand, or park any vehicle, A, in front of a public or private driveway, within 15 feet of a fire hydrant, within a crosswalk, within an intersection, on a sidewalk, within 20 feet of a driveway at entrance to any fire station, or on the side of the street opposite the entrance of any fire station within 75 feet of said entrance, on any railroad tracks, on any bridge, in such a manner as so to block the view of any traffic control sign or device, with the left side of the vehicle next to the curb, on any private property without the consent of the owner or the property, or at any place where official signs prohibit stopping, standing, or parking. At this point, I'd like to bring up another issue. Currently, Metro Wrestling is using Tony Lee's upper part of his storage building. I was never told when these meetings would be held, how often, or how many people would be parked in this area. Let me further explain this issue, what the issue is, because I know some of you are going to assume that I do not want people there. Yes, I'd much rather have my peace and quiet. But if it has been the last option for the meeting, for the Metro Wrestling, I'm willing to bear it a bit, but not every 2 days, not 3 days straight, not coming in early Saturday morning and then later that night. This is upsetting because when I was told about it, I was given the impression that it would be Sunday at 5 and Thursday at 5, and I was fine with that. A schedule and set time, I would know when everyone would be at our corner. Lately, it has become a problem. I end up sitting in front of my window watching cars sit, running in front of the fire hydrant, in front of my neighbor's driveway on my own, or in my own. The first time it happened, my husband was running to the store, grabbing some snacks and a little additives for my lunch. And to my surprise, he ended up coming back into the house, angry that somebody was parked right behind my car. Not running, just sitting there. Now, this isn't disappointing enough. I have called the cops on the people who have parked in front of the fire hydrant. Now, mind you, I watched my best friend's house next to my own burned and have everything lost. I have 5 kids, 1 elder, myself, and my husband. Even though you may think that a house is just a house, I have lived, loved, and raised my children in that house. And it is my home. That is to me where I find peace and happiness because of the memories. And I pushed the subject until you heard my voice because I watched my best friends stand there shocked and crying as she lost everything.
Okay, so here's my question about that. When you called the police, what did they do?
The sheriff's department drove by. That was it.
Okay.
They just
Did you let-
completely ignored the fact that there was a vehicle sitting there.
Okay,
We
did you let
watched
the
them.
council know? Did you let city council or city hall know?
I did call Julia
Okay,
and tell her that there's been issues with people parking in front of the fire hydrant.
okay,
She said that she would notify the police department and
Okay.
have them come out more frequently during the times.
You can sign a complaint, you call the sheriff's office, you can yourself take a picture, call the sheriff's office, tell them you want to swear a complaint, you do that yourself.
And I called them multiple times.
And you
And,
can swear out a complaint and get a prosecution against the owner of the vehicle.
okay,
That'll stop it. But you'll have to go to court to testify if you're not guilty.
Okay.
So,
Alright.
Cut out the middleman.
there's an easy fix.
I'm sorry. Oh,
I'm just saying, if that cuts out the middleman and trying to wait for somebody to come and show up with, you can do it yourself by getting a plate number and, description vehicle and eliminate the downtime and try to wait for somebody that might not do anything about it. So
Yeah.
it's something that I didn't know that was a thing, so something that might get the traffic point home quicker before we can act on it.
right. Okay, all right, we'll, definitely look into that as well. I'll talk to Julia.
We probably have to put up a no parking sign, right?
Yeah, we might have to have Tony put up a no parking sign or them put up a no parking sign.
Well, we gotta put one there by the fire hydrant.
Put one there by the fire hydrant. Okay, we'll look into that too. He'll go check that out and see where that stands, and we'll have a conversation with Tony and see what his
okay,
plan is.
because I have talked to Tony about it and
Yeah.
tell him that I don't appreciate people
Sure,
parking in front of my house where they're not supposed to be.
Right.
And he's,
okay. Well, it might come different from someone else, just because, if it's a city ordinance, we have to make him abide by that. So give us a chance to at least have that conversation, please.
Isn't it already a law that you can't park in front of a fire hydrant?
Yes,
And it's already like you can't park
Yes.
in someone's driveway anyway, right?
Right.
So that sounds like an easy fix.
yeah.
Yeah, just conversation.
Okay, next one.
so I just wanted to give these to you.
Yeah, that'd be
These are for
perfect.
my
Yeah, you can
dash
hand
cam.
those to us and we'll
Please do.
definitely take care of those.
These happen to be for my dash cam.
Okay,
I
awesome.
took the videos off
Right.
and I
Oh, I'll come around.
downloaded photos and printed them off for you. These are some of the streets and roads that I see that are the worst and some of the areas where we have.
Which is
the
what
most
he addressed.
concerns. Yes.
Okay, all right, we'll talk about that when maintenance comes, as I'm sure they've got to discuss. Anybody else come on?
Yeah, one.
Oh, yeah, go ahead, hand it forward.
My name's Ed Wilson, I live on Valley View Avenue. My question is Bulldog Avenue, that's a city street? Is that a city street?
I believe so, yes.
When are they gonna look at, city council looking at putting the sidewalk on the street for the schools there?
I will address that as we speak, because
Good timely question here.
good timing for that question, because this is probably what's going on. As some of you know and some of you don't know, we applied for a sidewalk grant. And our original idea for a sidewalk grant was down Fifth, along the school, across Lovely, along the school, and a couple other little places to join some things. We found out on what date, in January? Well, we found out in January we were declined because they decided to fulfill a bunch of smaller ones than our bigger one. This is the third time we have been declined. So what we are looking at right now, due to some other things, is we have our engineer looking at what it would cost the city to just do it put a sidewalk in on Fifth Street. We might have to piece it, but we're waiting to hear back from him on that pricing, so that we can like make a motion, and of course, if it's as high as we think it's going to have to be, we're gonna have to do bids, because that's part of our process as well. So it is going to be a little bit of a process, but please do know that this is I've had this issue for a long time, because I used to live across the street,
I've had it for
across,
5 years that I've.
yes. I used to live across in Baltic Heights, and my kids, I butted up to the park back there, and there's no sidewalks at all over there. So it's always been a thorn in my side. So we've been trying to fix that for the last 3 years. Now we're going on number 4. And we may have to just adjust what we request from them and just do pieces of it that we feel, and Fifth Street is one of them. I guarantee you Fifth Street is one of them. Okay, did that help you?
Yep.
Answer your question?
Which one?
I promise, we're working on it.
I
It is
already
a-
knew last November that was gonna be declined, so,
How did you know that?
because I work construction and I know all the engineers.
Good to know, because when I found out in January, I gotta say, I was a little peeled.
Sounds like you should put him on the sidewalk committee.
The city engineer told me that, as soon as you applied for it, that it was not true.
Because of how much?
Because there wasn't enough money for all the
Yeah.
stuff for everybody else this year and that's
Yeah.
not a crucial element. for
Yeah. And we cut it down from what it originally was to begin with, so again, we're gonna have to cut it down and start over again for another year. But we are looking into just at least figuring out as a city council, financing at least some of it.
I was
Some point.
also referring to right along Bulldog where everybody's got parked to pick their kids up because you're not supposed to park in the parking lot and sit there no more.
If it's my understanding, we have the road, but everything around it is the school.
But the sidewalk would still be
That's the school.
in the city easement though. You got your city easement, the sidewalk's always in the easement.
Is it a full 33 feet?
Yes, it should be.
Okay.
It
Well,
should be.
Oh, well, we can look into that. I disagree with
That's
that.
why, that's what I'm talking about.
Sure.
Because the
So on
road, the
the-
road's not plowed wide enough to
Right.
get kids in and out of vehicles.
Right,
And I'm sure a lot of people here have kids that go to school or on the Zoom that go to school and we all fight it because then you can't drive down the road because you can't park over far enough to get the kids in the vehicles and
Right.
kids come out between the vehicles because of that.
yeah, it's another one we can have the engineer look at and definitely see the pricing of it. I'm assuming you're talking on the side where the football field is.
Both.
Both sides.
There's no sidewalk on either side if you go. They just finally put a sidewalk in.
Yes,
on-
and that was part to go with our grant that we were
Yeah.
doing, so they did their part, we just
Yeah.
didn't have done ours, so.
But if you go,
On that side,
to the
on the
west.
middle school side, or the,
yeah,
grade
the
school
elementary, yeah, where
Okay,
the, yeah,
right.
that west from where the buses park.
Yep.
There's nothing either
Right.
side of the road to the west.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk to the engineer, we'll talk to Banner, put that on that list, and we'll see what, piece by piece, and see what we can do.
And I agree with this street with the
Yeah.
kids coming across and stuff too,
Yeah.
but also right.
Yeah.
I know that part wasn't on the proposal, so that's why I was asking.
All right, sounds good. Anyone else for public time? All these people in the room and nobody else wants to talk? It's kind of. Okay. Next up, maintenance.
All right, so for the maintenance report, we have, sort of water and pump stations, so we did our monthly water sample. That was done, we did our monthly net DNR reports, and then clean baskets at the appropriate lift stations. Put a new winch in on our third, davit located by the trailer park at the lift station, got that replaced. Streets and maintenance, so plow snow and removed piles at the cul-de-sacs. Did sanding and salting whenever it was necessary for the appropriate streets, then we were able to do that. Let's see here, inspected a road on Oak Avenue between Second and Third. Resident was concerned about a product that had foams, we checked that out. Curb stop was turned off at 420 Johnson to allow residents to fix their plumbing. Let's see here, put a new Street sign on Meadow Street, one of the signs actually said Meadow Avenue instead of street, so we got that corrected. New totes were given to a new resident in town, at 522 David Avenue. I replaced the cutting edge on the Boss plow, which is under F350. Replaced the cutting edge on our payloader, which is the JGR plow. We put up the ice rink and they're doing preparations for the opening to the public for that ice rink. We're trying to get that completed as quickly as we can. Safety and training, we attended a drive training at Braden, the safety training that we have there. It's all once a month. Also participated in a basic water treatment online course, and that was done also this last month.
Okay. I know I Scott left. This is a lot of work. Okay. To address the skating rink, someone was already out there before it was fully frozen, which is why we are having to go back and fix to try to make sure that it is ready, and that's why it's not ready now. Someone was skating on it before it was frozen, so I know we're excited to get on there, but let's give it time. Next thing is the chip seal, Lovely Avenue. It's $1.47 per square foot yard. Per square yard. We usually do about 20,000, so it equals 29,400. Is that what you? Okay. If we do milling and a new layer, it's around 250,000. But if we don't chip seal Lovely, we can add it to other roads to replace it. I'm not for sure what to do with it. Yeah, I remember the map. But we don't, we need to decide what we want to do. Okay.
We're gonna chip seal or we're gonna resurface.
Okay, guys, we need to decide if we're gonna chip seal or resurface. A new layer is around 250,000,
I remember the map, you said that.
and the chip seal is the 29.4,
I
right?
don't think I talked about, I'm sorry, we got.
It's in the team zone. It was from last meeting. It's in the team zone.
So we have to decide if we wanna mill and do a new layer for 250,000. And then that's all of Lovely, right? That's what we were, okay. Or if we wanna do chip seal for 29.4. And Ken, can you chime in anything?
I'll let it go.
No, they haven't got the deal this year.
Yeah.
But in the shape it's in right now, it needs to be repaired.
It needs to be repaired.
Well, I would say so.
Yeah.
This, why waste money on a chip seal when you can? if you're not
Mill
gonna
it
do
and,
If you're not gonna do it this year, go ahead and seal something else. Grant and mill it, throw it down the bench.
Okay.
You want to put that money towards that, going down and resealing it or resurfacing it, or you want to do it chip seal in the next year? That's my question.
okay, ask that again. I'm sorry, I could.
Do we want to chip seal this year, then come back in a couple of years and rip that back out, waste that money? I would rather see you do the resurface now. Or if you want to chip seal a different area, that's fine, whatever, but to chip seal Lovely Avenue right now, it's wasting money.
Okay, so in our rotation, what you're telling me is we should be chip sealing Lovely Avenue right now. But it needs to be milled and a whole new road
Right,
for most of it. So your recommendation is to not chip seal right now
right.
and to start looking at putting in the new road. And then once the new road is in,
You want a new road or chip seal a different area?
or chip seal a different area
Right.
until it's ready to restart. Yes.
So with the new development coming, you're gonna expect a lot of dump trucks, heavy machinery coming up and down the highway.
Right.
Why not put it off, chip seal it now, and then put it off? Yeah, just to wait, or, yeah, just leave it alone. because it's
Let the
just-
truck beat crap out of it and then fix it
Yeah,
after the
yeah,
fact.
just let it go to crap, and then when it is needed.
Not disagreeing.
You should chip seal.
But I don't know if we heard you say, Ken, you did say something about that road needs to be replaced in the next couple of years, right?
Well.
Would it make
gets
it
rough.
through this at all with the chip seal?
I was gonna say, will it help if we chip seal it to get it through it? If that's not gonna do anything for us.
We're just gonna waste money.
So basically, you're telling us just to hold off.
skip that or research or whatever you're gonna do.
And, or do a different part of the
Right.
map. What's the next part of the map that's due?
So,
Okay, sorry. Because they just did Meadow, we just did Meadow this last summer, and what else?
Meadow and Prairie.
Meadow and Prairie
and
and Valley View. And the rotation, so you basically want to skip the rotation of Lovely Avenue and just go to the next one.
That's
Right, or.
Or,
right.
no, I don't think we should do the milling this year. I agree with what he said, you know, based on the amount of money that it costs.
The plan right now for that new development is to have all the roads and everything in this year, because they want to start building houses by fall.
Right,
So if that happens, I agree.
yeah, I agree with him.
I would start looking for the bid process for next year, because can't
Right.
run those bids until.
Yeah, so we should do that.
So we skipped the chip seal for this year, moved maybe another street up a year. And next year, we talk about replacing after all the roads are in.
I would start looking for
Eventually,
bids
we're gonna
now.
start expanding our chip seal,
We
because
have the pricing.
with the new addition coming in, we try to chip seal all the roads every 7 years. So with the new addition coming in, that's gonna have to work into our rotation, so we're gonna have to start expanding our chip seal.
Right.
Okay, so. So the plan we have to get out there, we have to resurface.
It'd be along Sixth Street. So,
Baltic Heights.
yeah, it'd be along the street, yes. So looking at it here, obviously along Lovely, and then it'd be going north down by the gas station there. That'll, I don't know that road view. This is second, yes, it'd be Second Street. That's also involved in 2021. Obviously with discussion and very nice insight. We're almost, I mean, it's very close in square yards, what we were quoted for 2022, which would be Baltic Heights, be Sixth Street and then all that development, starting at Lovely going north. Be a heck of an idea just to flip-flop those.
Flip-flop.
Push 2022's progress up to now and then 2021, basically table this idea, come back to it, whether it's replacing the road.
The reason I'm asking this, if we're gonna call it Heights next, there's some manholes I need to cut out and, re-seal them, I mean, the manhole is sunk way in. I'd like to get that out, get reset before that part comes in.
That's something we do. Yeah, here you go. Yeah, probably
I have a question
Yeah,
regarding Lovely Avenue. Does the county have any financial participation in anything like this at all within the city?
not within city limits, we're told,
Unfortunately,
unfortunately, no.
I'm very fortunate that the county comes through the plow, because last
They,
county.
right, they plow.
That's the plow.
They do
They
that.
don't plow.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe within the construction of, wasn't the bridge, it was.
That bridge.
It was a bridge.
It was
The
bridge.
bridge that
And
came
when they moved
in,
the bridge,
basically when it got beat up from all the heavy haul trucks that came through, it was a cross your fingers and hope, and in discussion with them, if they would help, because obviously it's on their end, and no luck, as
Really?
I wasn't involved in those.
I wasn't either.
Well, we got the bridge de-annexed, we did that some years ago, we got rid of the bridge, forced it on the county.
Hoping the county would help, and to my understanding, we were told, well, so, to answer that the best I can, again, I wasn't there in those conversations.
Okay, so I guess I need a motion in a second on what you guys want to do for this chip seal on Lovely Avenue.
So can we make a motion appeal to basically flip-flop 2022 and 21's maintenance programs and chip sealing?
You can make that motion.
Yes, and that's the motion I will make. I will make a motion to push 2022 scheduled chip sealing, which would be Baltic Heights from Lovely on Sixth Street going north into all the Baltic Heights. Push that date to 2021 update program and push 2021's program to 2022. Reassess at that point. And then reassess at that point. Where it goes.
Do you understand that?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, got a first and a second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? And that is done.
I was trying to, just let me do the math on that. Keep that.
Okay, next, building inspector update.
Because we're gonna be off.
Been fairly quiet except for doing footings, and that's the reason I'm walking with a cane and we're very moving me out doing this discussion. Right now I'm taking training for the next whole week, via computer. Trying to get more update on a lot of those things. Getting a lot of interest in both the new developments and some of the commercial stuff. People are starting to make calls to me, wondering about what our codes are and where we stand on it. And a lot of this stuff that's in code enforcement is on the burner. We haven't pushed it because it's been lack for so long of a time to start making sudden changes. People come in and start screaming. So we've been gradually starting to work on projects. John and I are working on a couple tough ones right now that are going to be rather lengthy. And some of them are going to be fairly easy, but they're going to come up. But we're working on the code enforcement side of it as well. And so give us a little bit of patience. But if there is things, we've got a new deal where you could get online and notify us of a problem or pothole or whatever else, and we can start addressing that. But if we don't know about it, we can't do anything about it. So
How do they notify you
they can call the office.
Okay.
And then also on the one, is it a web page or is it whatever else?
It's live. It's live.
I haven't got one. Have you? What? Text me, have you got one of those?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah, it's online, right? Yeah, it's online that you can fill that out too. On the Baltic City website, where you can put it together, right?
Where's it at? How do you find it?
It's on the right hand side, isn't it?
I don't know,
Trying to visualize.
I think a link was put on both
I think it's live.
Baltic Facebook pages too. I want to say the city of Baltic one and the keeping informed. I thought there was a Juliet posted a shortcut to the text MyGov or whatever it is.
And then if you go to the Baltic landing page, baltic.govops.com, on the right-hand side, there is a red banner that says report an issue. And it says click here to make a report, and then there read more, and it'll walk you through the process. And that's part of the new software that we have, and that allows us to also track and get back to you if you so choose to. And if you don't want to be notified, you also have that choice as well.
Very cool.
That is very cool.
Yeah.
I have a question on the codes.
Yes.
So as you're doing that, do you have, I mean, are you just like rewriting code yourself, or, I mean, are you just
These are
looking at?
codes that are already, either building codes or
Well, that's what I'm asking. I'm just trying to understand. So you said you're looking at all these codes and there's been a lot of questions, but you don't want to mess with stuff because people start screaming. So I'm just wondering what,
a lot of the city ordinance has been neglected.
okay,
And that's the reason I'm getting into this,
got it.
is that Mike and Julie used to handle a lot of it.
Okay,
When they hired me, that was part of my responsibility. And we kind of simply said, we don't want to start rattling cages until we get everything set up to where we can handle it.
Bill, let's tie Deb in. That work, let's tie her into the process so that she can update.
so again, it's an issue of reviewing ordinances to make sure everything's.
Yeah,
in order,
also,
so
the
it
pretty
makes
much
sense.
there, we also see,
Okay.
I started, that's the city to start a program, or we go to the IBC code, it's called Property Management Code.
Mhm.
We've adopted that. Okay, that gives a lot more teeth and a lot more push into the codes. The city has some pretty sound codes
Okay,
that are there, that just haven't been enforced. And it's just a matter of manpower, time, and how much you want to spend.
of course.
And it's been a direction of, I'm not gonna speak for everyone on the council here, obviously. It's been a point of emphasis. Obviously, we have to follow the ordinances and the codes. I wanna make
Right.
that very clear. But, you know, a point of emphasis on getting everybody to follow it. It isn't, okay, everyone's getting a letter on every issue right away.
Right.
It's been a point, let's ease our way into this, give people time to adjust, and
We sent out a lot of letters last summer. You give people clean up their properties and get those painted, and some of them have started, some of them are working on it, some of them have.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a follow-up deal, you don't, change it from night to day in one day.
I understand.
And I mean, I hate saying it, but I'll bring up the situation I've been in. That's been going on for years and years and years. It was tough to go tell that man he had to get rid of his license.
Yeah.
But it had to be done.
Okay.
And he agreed to it finally. Okay, so I mean, it takes time. We got a couple other issues that are gonna probably wind up in court. And it's, a lot of time consumed in getting some of this stuff taken care of.
I understand.
Because I got basically 2 properties that I want to condemn in the city right now. And it's gonna be free.
I think it's a great idea to tie her into
So,
that process.
but your opinion right now is the majority of the codes are sound, they just haven't been enforced. But then there are some codes that need to be reviewed because simply that no one's really looked at them.
Part of the other deal is that in the building codes, you get into your ordinances are pretty much spelled out in here whether I could use your property codes. The building codes, they run a 3-year cycle.
Okay,
Right now, you're in the 18 code cycle, 21 is already out,
okay,
but we probably won't push to enforce that until 22. Simple fact is it takes about a year to wash through it and find out what works for the city of Baltic and what works for the city of Sioux Falls.
Right.
What I do is I take Sioux Falls' recommendations, the home builder's recommendations, and what the city of Baltic needs to do. And I compile them together and then I present it to the board for approval. And one thing that I'd asked last time is set up a committee of 3 or 4 people,
I remember.
and I'd like to do that.
I think it's smart. One thing to add to his point about that is that if we do come up with a committee to reevaluate these building code boards, is it has a potential to lower all of our insurance rates because we have people that know what they're doing, that are establishing these ordinances, and that benefits the city as a whole. So I think everybody can get on board with our insurance rates dropping because we have some people taking care of this. I think it's a brilliant idea. Did you guys decide if you want 3 or 5 people on that committee?
They have to understand it's a volunteer situation.
Of course.
So I mean, they're probably never gonna get called, but they're also gonna get called when they need to get called.
I think 5 is a good number.
I think 5's a great number. And there's enough people, didn't you say that there was enough people that are, like
I already
certified?
have 3 people that volunteered already.
Right, and then there's enough tradesmen in this city that can be able to speak to this with authority.
And with around.
Perfect.
It can't be necessarily everybody in the city, because you gotta be a little bit, how you wanna be. Can't be much of a conflict in it.
Right.
So you want a broad span, and if they live within 5 miles, or they work in this town but don't live in this town, yeah, they're worth using.
That's really great, you have 3 people already. That's good. Okay, cool, thanks, sorry.
Next thing is the city administrator update. And I'm assuming we're doing city hall to go with it.
Can I ask one more question before he starts? Have you guys approved him to move forward with that committee then, to start reviewing this stuff so he can do that, or is it still a discussion point?
We approved that last year. Yeah, that was done, yeah, we took care of that one.
So when you start doing, do you need like another public call out, either via the website or get informed with Baltic, or so people know this is happening, so if they're
If they
interested,
want
they
to
can.
volunteer, yeah, it'd be nice.
So I think that's probably something worth putting on the keep informed in Baltic. I know I'll put it.
Yeah, we don't have any affiliation
We're not admins
to,
on that page.
no, we're
It's a
not.
City page.
Okay.
We can put it on the city page.
So you
We
can.
can put it on the city page.
Okay, well, I'll totally put it on Make It Baltic Better, so that way it'll be on that page, and then you guys can put it on the city website, and, okay, cool.
Okay, I'm going to be doing the city administrator and the city hall update as Julia saw me today. I have been working on the election, upcoming information and board designations. We are redoing our handbook and employee job descriptions. We're continuing with software and systems trainings built into our iWorks account. I'm working with John and Jesse Bonkert in the planning of the Economic Development Board. We've had meetings scheduled and we're going to continue.
Put your mic up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think they can hear you back there.
Sure.
Our housing study is just about complete. We should have that information within the next couple of weeks, and from there, we'll continue on with the comprehensive plan. We have been meeting and continue to meet with developers for the commercial property, and we have a builder coming in, and I'm working on reaching out to local businesses and parties of interest who may be interested in leasing in that building and connecting them with the developers so they have an opportunity, kind of a head start to start thinking about whether moving and relocating may be something that they would be interested in.
I have a question on that, if you don't
Sure.
mind. So the Economic Development Board, how are you, where are you at in the planning stage of that, and how is that gonna be, who's gonna be on that? How's that work?
You want me to address that?
Yes, if you could.
Sure. Scott, myself, and Becca. Oh, is it Dennis Nelson?
Yes.
From Brandon, and the gentleman that's
Jesse Fox.
Jesse. We met, Deb, in my building downtown. When was that? January?
Mhm.
We may have come up with the name Bill Baltic.
Can't be Bill Baltic better, though, okay?
Well, and I've got articles drafted already. And I mean, we're setting up another meeting. Basically, it's Jesse, right?
Yeah, it's Jesse.
He did a great job.
He's good.
Facilitating the meeting. We've got, maybe you could share with Deb, Becca, those slides, the photos of each of the boards, just full of ideas that would kind of bring you up to speed.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's just all really, it's just all
Brainstorming and
positive.
planning.
So it's all
Brainstorming.
conceptual right now?
Yes.
All
Okay,
conceptual.
okay,
And we're setting up another meeting.
Yes.
perfect.
It's moving forward, it's just.
How do you get in that meeting?
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely.
Anyone can come?
Yeah, I don't see any reason not to. I'm gonna circulate articles of incorporation.
Okay.
Which I think we have enough from the first conceptual meeting to draft those. And then one of the topics was membership for the board of directors. And there's a bunch of ideas, including a number of names that are mentioned as possible. So, there's work to do. The bylaws will be probably more important maybe than the articles, even though the articles create the legal entity. But anyway, it's
So with this being such a new concept to Baltic, and I don't know if you guys know me, but I grew up in Del Rapids and I've seen economic development groups be formed and be really, maybe not necessarily in the best interest of cities.
Yeah.
I just think that it's really important in light of the tumultuous relationship with the citizens in the city of Baltic that we really handle this economic development group with kid gloves. And like you said, you guys are all being transparent and that's super cool. But with this economic development group and with everything that's happening with the residential group and with the commercial development group and Lovely getting fully leased, and we literally are out of commercial space to even develop. I'm hard pressed to understand what the purpose of the group is when there literally is no place to commercially develop in Baltimore.
Oh, well, the city owns a commercial lot.
Yeah. We own
I know, but that's one lot, so you need a
Well,
whole articles of
Deb,
incorporation.
oh, I'm doing it for just, it's.
No, but you see what I'm saying?
I actually think your question is the answer. I think what better thing to bring to a board is brainstorm ways to solve that issue.
So here's a question, because I've only lived in Baltic for a year now.
Totally.
If we had a dedicated economic development director, and this is no statement on our current, where's the economic development plan? Where was the 5-year plan? Where's the 10-year plan? Where's the 15-year plan? Where is it?
Well, the housing plan is part of that, Deb.
Correct.
Okay,
And the bottom line is, I guess, is the important thing is that there is staff now that can work and develop some economies of scale and spread out the effort and make it real. We're gonna avoid conflicts, I will tell you that. There's not gonna be any conflicts of interest in the Bill Baltic thing.
yeah, you guys seem really cognizant of
It's
that.
all integrity. There's nobody that's gonna line their pockets doing economic development. you know, that's just the way it's gonna be.
It's easy to happen though. It's
Well,
really easy to have that happen.
I
So you
won't be
gotta be careful.
involved in it, frankly. If you see me resign, then you'll know something stinks, okay?
Well,
So-
I'm just curious that if you're using the current Baltic Economic Development Plan as a roadmap for this group, or are you taking the Baltic, or is there no?
There is no.
Yeah, but I don't know that
Thank
we
you.
There
have
has
one.
never been anything, because this job that she's doing right now is extremely new. And, well, it is. It started, what, 3 years ago with
Well,
Glenn?
then forgive my language, what the hell was Wendland doing?
Well, he was the mayor.
But he was the economic
Yes,
development.
that just started 3 years ago.
I know,
Not
but in
even-
3 years, you don't have an economic development plan and we paid him to do it and it was 50% of his
We
time?
got a lot
It
of
should have been the
There-
first thing he did.
There actually is an economic development.
Thank you.
He's right in with FTCs on the development of the housing, which is a conflict of interest.
That's not necessarily, I don't want to
I was
say that.
at the meeting when he stood up there and said that he's been working on it for years with Hefty Seeds, so when he resigned and got put in as economic development, conflict of interest was already there.
Okay, so
So,
I don't mean to open up a can of worms, that was not the purpose of this comment, but I do want to make sure that we are not going to ignore the elephant in the room, okay? And so I am all for creating this group, I think it's good, I think Jesse knows what he's doing, I know him, and he's very good at what he does, he played a big role in Hartford. In fact, Sioux Falls recruited him to be the head of Lakita Makita, and so Jesse knows what he's doing, he's a great asset for this movement. What I need to understand is if you're gonna do that, how, are we gonna have an economic development plan for Baltic? Or is it going to incorporate?
I would assume that would be something.
Want to create one now.
I think, Deb, you
So
should
that
be
we
part
don't-
of it and help develop a plan. But I will tell you, we all know this, I mean, Sioux Falls is full of conflicts of interest.
Oh, yeah.
It's been that way for decades.
Have you seen the chamber?
Well, I mean, yeah, and so, you know,
So if we could backtrack a little bit.
Sorry.
here. No, that's fine. With this, I just give a little bit of or precedence to the conversation, I guess is what we'll say. Where this came to light was we were just, if you think how many years ago, I mean, before, obviously, long before me on the council, but, you know, the discussions were happening on how do we keep the gas station open?
Mm-hmm.
Never would have thought in a million years that you're thinking, oh, we're gonna have 3 lots being sold and, oh shoot, what a problem, we don't have commercial lot for sale, okay? So now all of a sudden that starts to become a fruition and we're starting to think, okay, what a great thing, let's have an economic development board. And for one, you guys know how full-time jobs work, and it's not that we can leave 3 days a week and meet these people that are inquiring about this commercial grounds. We thought, okay, let's have a board. Well, with excellent insight, and Tracy spent a ton of time, John, realizing it needs to be done right. And that's why I've been, you know, naive me, thinking, let's push this along. I told Scott, I said, let's get this done sooner the better. Well, it needs to, the bylaws and everything need to be laid down correctly so that you don't have this conflict, minimize the conflict of interest. We're a town of 1,200 people.
Right.
Everybody knows everybody. I grew up here. I'm related to half the town, it feels like. I mean, you know, obviously not, but you get my point. Is that was the discussion that's been had. And that's why this thing, it is moving along. There's been plenty of people that have said, hey, I have big time interest in being on that, which is great.
capital is not a bad word.
No,
You
it's
gotta
a good
have
word.
people with capital or nothing happens.
Well, and if we as a community don't start taking a serious look at our commercial development or lack thereof, we're gonna end up like Harrisburg with
Amen.
$500 water bills because we have absolutely no commercial base to offset the residential expenses that a bedroom community has.
Amen.
And
The
so,
other thing you need to think though is the economic development board is the one that can go out and purchase that land for new construction or new industrial area.
Right.
Where the city really shouldn't be in the land buying.
agreed,
So
100%.
That's your mechanism that gets you to that point.
Right. No,
So that's why it's
I'm
important.
completely on board with you. So that's why I was surprised when I heard the city bought that land because that isn't necessarily the ideal path.
Well, it was a bit of irony that the city bought that to try to jumpstart all this because the land was just sitting there and they couldn't
Oh,
get it
Deb wasn't
sold.
gonna sell it to anybody.
Correct.
You know.
Well, and then all of a sudden, we get it, we're talking about this, we're rocking and rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Now we find out, hey, well, the city can't sell it, so we gotta have economic development.
Got it.
And I'll be damned if the rest of it didn't sell like that.
Mhm.
So in hindsight, should the city have bought it?
In 2 months.
Yeah, well, Who knows? But now we have to figure out how we can get the land sold because the city can't profit.
We literally bought that
I
in
know.
December.
I know.
At the end of
Yep.
December, the corner was bought, and then just, 2 weeks ago, the middle piece is bought.
It's not.
So not
done.
even,
It's
it's not quite a done deal, but it's close.
It's
So,
never
and-
done until it's signed.
You're right, but it's still in talks, so it's not wide open,
Right.
is what I'm getting at. And that's happened in less than 2 weeks, or 2 months. So go ahead.
So on that, that land there that's been purchased, along Lovely there.
Fifth and Lovely, I think.
Yep.
we're
Yep.
talking about.
So
Lovely.
has been purchased?
Yes,
Yes.
the corner lot of Fifth and Lovely has been
Yeah.
purchased.
So when will we find out who has purchased it and what is going?
You can look on the GIS and see who purchased it. His name
It's
is,
not updated on GIS, but.
it's not, his name is Dave Dice.
Yeah,
He
Dice.
is not sharing with us what he's doing. We have no clue.
Because the city doesn't own it, the private entity owns it, the city has nothing to do with it until they come to the city and say, hey, we want to build this on here. So everyone keeps saying, city's hiding stuff. The city just doesn't know because it's private. It's a private. So when they file for a permit, that's when the city will.
We actually reached out to him to see if he'd give us an idea, and he doesn't even want to tell us
He's
yet.
not ready to.
He's not ready to
And he doesn't
divulge
have
it.
So
And he doesn't have to.
depending on what he's planning on putting there, the city can still confirm or deny the building permit.
Planning and zoning, yeah.
Well, but yeah, he's gotta comply with zoning, everything he
Well,
does.
depending on, okay, I asked this question, I believe on your Facebook page, and I mean, there was a list of speculation there.
Right.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it went on, and just asked him a simple question, and it went on, and it went into a tizzy. What I'm saying is, this is a small bedroom community, some of the things that were said on there, in my opinion, we don't want them.
The best thing that he said to us is,
If it was a
Everybody
chiropractic
in the-
shop, if it was another gas station, if it was anything to help the community, yes.
well, his comment to us was it would be something that is needed,
Benefit the community.
that will benefit the community. I mean, that's the best we know. I mean, to say that, I guess.
We just don't know.
Yeah, we just don't know.
I was the one that had a discussion with him, and again, I'm not hiding anything, to put it out there, he just said this is his baby, he's having fun with it, and I respect it, I mean, it's not.
So
I'm not
does he
gonna-
Didn't he say it might
Businesses
take
and
5 years
involved?
too?
I mean, no.
He never gave us a
No,
timeframe,
He doesn't know a
nothing.
timeline.
He brokers,
He doesn't have
he
to.
broker pigs. I think he's,
Yeah.
a pig broker. I think that's
I
what.
I thought it was cows.
That'd be great to have.
I think he's
a corner
pretty
at Fifth and
good.
Lovely.
Yes, he's a
Oh, no.
I don't.
There's money involved.
So
Yeah, I don't-
the tricky thing is because the city doesn't own the land and the landowner may or may not care what the use clause is on that land. And so at some point in time, the city's gonna know, and at some point in time, the city may or may not have control of what is on that land. And so to answer your question, do they have omniscient right to say, yes, you can do that, or no, you can do that? The easy answer is no, they don't have control over that, right, John? They have some levity.
Zoning has it. The zoning
Yeah.
determines what he can
The
build.
laws are all in this.
The guy's not irrational. I mean, I don't
Thank
care who
God.
he is.
Right.
Well, I mean, and the other thing you gotta be careful about is you don't wanna scare away people with capital.
No, that's, if it's gonna benefit the community,
But you just,
so how long does he have after purchase date to break ground?
Whenever he wants.
Whenever he wants.
He can pass it on to his kids if he
Across the
wants.
road.
We don't,
So it
yeah,
could just sit
it can sit there for years.
It can sit there for 20 years.
He doesn't have to do anything with it. He doesn't want
That's
to.
not necessarily true.
He doesn't,
If
we
there's
can't
ordinance-
force him to do anything
No,
with it.
but there's ordinances, covenances that were designed for that property when it was developed. Like, if you buy a residential lot in Valley View Edition there, where I live at, you had to break ground within 12 months of purchasing the lot.
That's the residential side.
Yeah,
I'd have to look at the commercial
I don't
side.
know what the
I don't
covenants
think-
are.
There's no
I don't-
covenants.
Not that, I don't think
No,
there's
because
covenants.
Mark's been sitting on that
Yeah,
parcel for
nobody would
decades.
buy it if there were covenants that you had to do stuff on.
Common
Yeah.
sense the same way, like my Mark's lot, that's been.
Yeah, that's been, even Larry been sitting on that forever because he's trying to figure out what he wants to do.
That information is publicly
No,
available.
no, and I know that,
No
so,
problem.
and that's what I was saying. I know some commercial property does have covenants where they gotta have so much.
Oh,
I
don't.
Stuff like that.
I don't know,
Just-
we'd have to look at that, I don't know if it does, I would highly think that it
You know,
doesn't, but I don't know.
In
As a
reality,
guess, yeah.
for the city of
Yeah,
Baltic
yes.
is that it's a development neophyte.
We need it.
I mean, that's the bottom line is there's no track record here other than residential development. And like Dennis Olson said,
Yes.
you know, you do have economic development. Building houses is economic development.
Right.
We got Baltic Heights, we got Valley View, 132 houses, holy crap.
Right.
That's nothing to shake a stick at, even though people may not be totally happy with how it's unfolding because of personalities. Well, what do you do with that? I mean,
I don't know if it's necessarily about personalities. I think that people still have a lot of questions about whether or not it's, meets the overall goal of Baltic. I mean,
well, but see, you gotta see the problem, Deb, is that this would have been a great conversation to have had about 5 or 10 years ago.
Right.
But there was nobody here to do this.
Right.
And you had a little mom and pop city hall with no staff.
Mhm.
And so who's gonna do that stuff?
So when you're looking at this new add-on, though, is that fully passed? Is it done? There's no more discussion, or is it
On
still
what?
for Hefty's?
Oh, I don't even
Oh,
think
it's
that's
already
off.
out for bid.
That's
because-
not even
I
off
mean,
the
is that
ground,
even,
is it?
is that
Oh, yeah,
done?
we already got.
Nothing comes presented to us.
They got another meeting next month.
Okay.
It's gotta go through P and Z still,
Yes.
my understanding.
That's my understanding too.
Nothing has been.
Nothing has been.
Okay,
presented to us.
I just wanted to because I didn't know. I didn't know
That's
that.
great.
That's really good.
Okay, super.
They're getting dollars figured out right now, so. Because, we got an invitation from Banner 2 weeks ago to bid the project, so that they can see where they're at for money.
So the part you guys approve is whether or not that development is annexed to Baltic. Is that what you guys approve?
Yeah.
And then
We have to
once
make
you
a
guys
formal
decide
request for annexation.
you want to approve it, then it gets all brought in, right?
Well, annexation
What they
could be
do there on that
referred,
land is
yeah.
up to them.
I mean,
but
I
you have to
understand they're
decide if you
bidding
want
it,
to
but
approve
it's
it.
not part of the city limits.
I was just gonna say, exactly.
I mean, no banker's gonna loan money on property. Of course, maybe they're I don't know what they're doing for financing. But it's a great
Sorry,
problem to
we've
have.
gone off the rails. So I
That's okay.
apologize.
All these are great problems to have.
Yes.
Yes.
Very.
Because there probably does need to be you guys gotta talk about planning and zoning tonight, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
It'd be better for the city to have more houses anyway, look at it.
Yes.
Taxes are gonna keep going up if we don't get more revenue coming into the town.
Yeah, but it's always a fine balance between residential and commercial that helps
And
make
we
a
don't have
community.
commercial at all.
Well, we're in that chicken and the egg thing because you're not gonna have commercial because we don't have enough houses, but we
Exactly.
need the houses to bring the commercial, so it's a chicken and egg.
I'm just kidding.
Is that a pterodactyl?
There's so many that fly out of here.
You warm it up again.
It's a nuisance.
Okay, we have to keep
Yes.
moving.
Sorry, Tracy.
No, that's okay. City Hall update is, you're going to read it?
Yes, I will go through the city hall update quickly for Julia. She has been attending and has always been a member of the city hall, and her last one was on January 27th, which she was reelected as president. She's been working on the annual report. She has started the planning for the finance officer school in Pier, which she's also part of in June. Other than other day-to-day official tasks, that's what's out of the ordinary for her.
Now we're going to move on to attorney remarks.
All right, okay. I don't know what is up. Oh.
I'm done.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. Just a word, I think it was 3 years ago, probably, that, this wouldn't have happened without Julia. I helped a lot too. The ordinances were codified for the first time and posted online. So this council and staff doesn't really do a good job of blowing its own horn, and maybe that's a good thing. But that's a fact with Julia. And we wouldn't have codified online ordinances if she wouldn't have taken that on. That really isn't a finance officer's job.
No, but it's
It's not.
at the county law library, right, that it.
Yeah, oh, it always has been.
Yeah, that's.
It's just that one of the reasons why okay, the chicken thing,
Mhm.
okay? Well, the mayor of the city of Baltic
Not me.
was operating under an old ordinance that you got. Isn't that lovely? Okay, so that's where all these confusions come in. So anyway, we'll get through this, but it's just one step at a time. So people I know were very interested in the bike easement in Valley View. I spent a lot of time looking at this last month and this month, and interacted with Banner, with Becca, pulling all this stuff together, all the plats. And we discovered that out of all of these lots in Valley View, only lots 66 to 73 have a bike easement. that is referenced on the plat. The rest of the lots, 1 through 27, do not. So the question then becomes, what is this bike easement referenced on these plats? There's an unresolved question under South Dakota law over whether a plat dedication even constitutes an easement. So Becca and Scott and Tracy, we've all been working on this because the idea is we need to clear up the records to Valley View. Why that bike easement reference ended up on those plats is beyond me. Some of the plats have been vacated and replatted. So the long and the short of it is that we had conversations with Banner. Nathan Nielsen is the head land surveyor. And I did some research and found a statute in South Dakota, was passed in 2005, that allows an error or omission of data detected on a recorded plat to be corrected by a surveyor affidavit. So, so we figured all that out, got Banner's approval that made sense. Then I talked to the Register of Deeds, Julie Risty, who thankfully I've known for many years. And she sent me an email on February 3 that said that her office would accept an affidavit of correction by the land surveyor to correct the error on those lots 66 to 73 to get rid of the words bike easement. So there's probably gonna have to be several of those affidavits of correction. And so Banner currently is working on, I'll work on the form of the affidavit, but the Register of Deeds has the vote. She gets to decide what to accept for filing or not, unless you get a judge to disagree with her, and we don't want to go that route. So within a reasonable period of time, this issue over this bike easement, which I think was renting space in a number of landowners' heads, will be gone.
So what lots are the 63, 67 to 73 or whatever?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I just know
From the highway all the way up to Berg's house.
Okay.
Well, there you go. So-
Thank you.
Sixth Street.
Thank you.
Sixth Street on the north, or east side.
So Berg's house would be the end.
So just to clarify, it's looking to be removed?
It's going to go away.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then there won't be a bike path behind all those houses?
No.
No,
That's interesting.
Well, see, that,
Yeah,
it's
not.
Go ahead.
Okay. Not, how do I want to say this? I mean, again, it's their decision, but it wouldn't go within that easement, I guess is the way to put it. There's nothing that's being said.
So there
they can't do
may
it
be a
beyond
chance
their
there could be a
spot
bike path, it just won't be on
Exactly.
those.
Cascades is bringing it in on their development.
Yeah,
If that makes sense. So-
The new
yes,
development
if
can
it
do
isn't
something,
pushed
it's
on
just
there.
not on our, it's
Got
just not on what's existing.
Got it.
And that, and
Right?
what,
Doesn't make-
this
Got
our
it.
bike path, I'm not saying, I haven't had any conversation saying that's what they're gonna do.
Right.
Put on there, I'm not,
No, I
I
get
have
it.
no idea. I'm just saying that would relieve the easement conversation within.
And it really isn't an easement.
No.
It's like Julie Rich is like, well, why does it say easement? I'm like, well, I don't know. There is not an easement document. And then we got into this whole plat dedication, because I had a case years ago
Got it.
that dealt with that issue. So the bottom line is, this was never done in a way that's contiguous and continuous anyway.
Right.
It's just grief. So I
Yeah.
said, get rid of it. So it'll be gone. You know, by the leaves, the spring, it'll be over, it'll be a dead issue.
When you get done with that, will you get a copy of that?
Oh, absolutely. And see, the other thing was, when we were talking originally, it's, oh my God, we're gonna have to approach every single lot, every landowner, holy cats. So this is a systemic way to just deal with it.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that's all I have.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Any other questions on that? Okay. On to the next business. Okay, second reading and adoption of ordinance 281, spending authority is ordinance number 281, City of Baltic, South Dakota, an ordinance to amend chapter 32.04 of the revised ordinances of the City of Baltic, South Dakota, to provide for the spending and contract authority of department heads. And I need a first.
Right, I don't know if you wanted to explain to Tracy on what it is.
It's a second reading.
It's-
Okay.
Yeah, this is a second reading, so, yeah, basically we just up so that some of the department heads don't have to wait. a whole month for us to approve a $500 purchase if they need a new wrench.
Is there a
whatever.
ceiling on that then? So that
Yes,
they can't
it's,
like-
it's listed in the ordinance.
So no Lamborghinis for the department?
You're right, unless you can buy one for $2,500.
They're going electric Teslas, yeah.
Right, yeah. So I need.
I'll make a motion. I will second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion carried. Next thing is per city ordinance 153.02, appointing planning and zoning commission.
You guys.
Do we
had a
have
wild
people of
couple
interest who would like to be on the planning and zoning?
Possibly, not sure what it is involved.
Wow.
So if we want to
Doug, right?
explain the.
Yeah.
The mayor gets to appoint.
I know.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah, right, it's a very good question.
I have a question. Does this have to be appointed tonight? Because I don't think the city is aware that there's even openings on this commission, and unless you're sitting in this room, you can't even express interest in it.
2 members have to be on from the council.
But it's a
Yeah,
5%
oh, I
thing.
understand, yeah, but I just wanted to make sure.
So for the other 3 positions though,
Yeah.
since we're in the land of transparency now, wouldn't it make sense to be able to make a public call to say, hey?
There's 3 of us present ones here right now.
I appreciate that, but what if other people want a chance and they're not here because they didn't know? I mean,
I don't know how that works.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I didn't bring it with me.
well, you know what, this ordinance just came up on the agenda yesterday. It hasn't been posted publicly, the public doesn't know, and if there's an opportunity to really make a difference in the city, I think the citizens should have the opportunity to express that interest to you that reside outside this room.
Yeah.
Well, we can't have a planning and zoning meeting without it, so that means everything's on hold for planning and zoning, correct?
And technically, it's posted on the minutes that says it's there, so it's been there for 24 hours, just like any other meeting. It passes all legal laws for the state.
I understand it's legal, I'm asking if it's right. If we're gonna turn a corner in the city and actually be transparent and include the citizens of this city, I think it would be right to let people know that this opportunity is available and see if there's interest in it throughout the city, rather than just asking the people in this room.
So then that brings up, how long do we wait?
Exactly.
Do we wait for 5 months because we want to let everybody have a chance to
Well,
tell me that they want on it?
Obviously not.
Well, no, but I mean, so who dictates that? That's not in the ordinance,
Well, when's
is
the
it?
last time you had a planning and zoning committee appointed?
I don't know the answer to that. I would have to look at that. I just became
Now,
mayor.
here's what's
so I
unusual.
don't know.
I mean, and state law provides that any municipal office
Mhm.
where people remain in the position, it just keeps rolling over, which is, you may think is odd, but I did look into that. But it's the mayor's call, Tracy, you can make these appointments outside of an official meeting. So it's an entirely discretionary, under the ordinance, it's an entirely discretionary function.
So with that being said, a suggestion could be made that we can try to get the word out for like 24 hours and say, hey, by 3 business days from now, you need to make known to City Hall, you have interest in this, say why you state your case, because you're new at this, and say, hey, I don't even know who's interested in this. This is what it is. This is what it entails. These are the time commitments. And you have until Friday to tell me if you want interest, and if not, tough luck.
Well, I have a comment on here. It says the ordinance was on the agenda and everyone has the opportunity to attend, especially when we can attend on Zoom. And what did you want to say about it?
Just clarifying what she would say. I would say that I would give everybody until Friday at 5:00 PM to give any call notice or any warning that they would like to be part of the planning and zoning committee. And then by the next time that we would have a planning and zoning meeting, that those would have already been appointed.
Well,
For all the people on Zoom,
It's
it's
your
send a message if
discretion.
they're interested already.
Yes.
And we have at least one sitting member here, right?
Was there anybody on
Two.
Zoom
Okay,
interested?
3, oh gosh, 3, okay. Okay, 4. Well, yeah, exactly.
Everyone, exactly.
Well, I got a question though.
Yeah.
Okay, I did question this when I don't know how many of you were on the council when you adopted this about P and Z.
I'm
Yeah.
betting none of us.
Okay.
Should be a year underneath that. When was it?
What, do you have a year on it?
should be right at the bottom of the first section. See underneath, right there. Yeah, it's, it's from the prior code. So it's been on the books for a long time.
Long before any.
Well, what I want to get at is, what criteria are you going to use as a council to select whoever's interested? If you're going to only have 3 besides the 2 council members, what's going to be the criteria for selecting P and Z?
Again, that's a great question, because I'm new to this, I don't know.
Maybe that's where it is a good idea to give it a few days so that Tracy can maybe hear from a few people who are interested and get more knowledge on it too, because this is getting thrown on your lap real quick.
And P and Z is a
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
Especially where we are in the city right now. I don't think that's a decision that should be made quickly or lightly.
Is that a 5-person committee? John?
Does anybody know what the P and Z?
2 have to be council members.
Oh, say that again, Jim, what?
Does anybody know the responsibility of the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Yeah.
I don't think they have an idea what we do
Okay,
or what our role is.
right.
Do you want the microphone to
Yeah.
explain what it is?
They're all youngsters. Hey, I've been on this commission for over 25 years, okay? And I don't think they realize what our function is. Our function as planning and zoning is to make sure to carry out our guidelines of the land use. Okay? That's basically it. Right, Doug? Agree? Yeah.
So the guidelines of land use
So-
are stated where?
We oversee, according to our manual, what people can do and what they can't do with their land. Okay? Comes to developments and stuff, we go through it, approve it. Everything we approve has to go through the council for their approval, final approval. We don't final approve nothing.
It's a suggestion per se. I
We
mean,
just,
okay.
we approve it as the planning and zoning, but the final approval goes to the council for review and approve or disapprove.
Can I make
Okay.
a suggestion? I understand that you said 5 for the planning and zoning, but is it possible to like have subcommittees? So if you do get a larger interest, then, you know, especially if you wait till Friday or whatever to hear from others that aren't here, could you potentially open it up for others to be like on a subcommittee and maybe, you know, like, I think more.
Like
more
areas of
heads are-
specific interest.
Yeah.
John, I don't know.
You need to change the ordinance.
Right.
If you,
When you're talking.
We know it's a long
about-
process.
Right.
yeah, you have to change the ordinance.
Anyway, just one last thing. I said, I've been on it for over 25 years. We've gone through a lot of changes, a lot of different stuff. I think it's time for me to step back, so I hereby resign the Planning and Zoning Commission as chairman, and it's effective immediately.
Thank you.
For you guys to understand a little bit more, what planning and zoning does is take land from ag, residential, R2, R3 residential, and industrial, commercial business, central business, industrial, heavy industrial. Okay, they make those decisions. That turns around and tells me what can go on that piece of property, what type of building. That's how that works. So, you know, if somebody's got a piece of residential property, wants to put industrial product in the middle of it,
They can.
they can't. So yes, it's a very important job of deciding what goes where and how.
Right.
Okay, there is exceptions in parts of that. Is what land, best use of land is. Okay, you're probably familiar with the shed home going down here by the railroad track.
The sharps?
The shops, okay? Trouble is, it was a piece of land that was not getting any real tax value in the city. Okay, with a few corrections and a few conditionals and use and variances, it's now coming into the tax rolls. Instead of a non-productive ag piece to a piece of, you know, income into it. So yeah, they're a very important part and they need to know what they're doing. You know, they just can't basically pick up a book and says this works and it doesn't.
Mhm.
They need to have time to get trained in what they're doing.
What's the training process?
You're going to have to do a lot of reading real fast.
During the state conferences too, they also have committees that you go to and learn how to do that. I went through the code enforcement one, the planning and zoning one, back when they were having the meetings for the council. So the state does do that. They had been doing that every year, but now with COVID, obviously it can't.
Right.
ICC also has a book that's for zoning now, which I recommend the city would invest in.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, all the guidelines are set. You just need to get yourself up to speed on the guidelines and then be able to make practical, logical decisions for the city. Okay.
You also have to have some common sense.
Well, that, you know, that seems to be a requirement for everything we do, isn't it?
Yeah, but
Can I make one comment?
Yes, by all means.
And I don't want to beat this horse to death, but in all respect to Jim, the big thing with everything here too, with Jim being on there for so long and his years of dedication, the whole big thing with this new development, everyone was talking about the conflict of interest between him and Mike running that. Okay, yes, I understand that. I get that. That's perception, the transparency that you're talking about as well. So going forward with making this new planning and zoning, the transparency is going to be there. But we also have to make sure that the people appointed have zero contact with any type of developers, whatever. So for the transparency part, we always have been. It's great to see this many people here. In my time here, this is the largest we've ever seen as well. So there's a lot of hard questions. There's been people at my door, knocking on my door at 7 o'clock at night in the middle of dinner time saying, hey, I've got a question for this. So to think that it's just a meeting is also wrong as well, because it goes on the city website, your phone number is posted, your address is posted, and people do show up. Yes, and there's nothing wrong with that. So just remember, this is also a commitment if you're gonna do it. And I've got the books at home, you know, I looked at all that stuff from the developers that are putting in the new development. I spent days reading that, trying to make sure, okay, hey, yeah, this is all up to speed. And I filed my taxes last week and it was a whopping $30 from the city. So let me tell you, the hours, what you think, that's not the reason to do it. The reason to do it is you want Baltic to excel, you want Baltic to move forward and be better. You know, that's where we're going with it.
I want to say one more thing. I work in 3 towns right now. Okay. Of all the councils that I deal with, all the zoning boards I deal with, I like this one the best.
That's because we have common sense.
Don't you have a very progressive group of people. When I walked into this, I sat down with the mayor at that time. And I told him, I said, one thing that's gotta go, and that's the Beagle Boys Club. That's what's been running this town. But I have seen the zoning board that works very well with people. They work well with me. I have a council that supports me. Don't screw that up, folks, whatever. That's gonna kill you, because I can tell you 2 towns that it's killing right now.
I'm not trying to slow down your progress on having a planning and zoning committee, and I understand that it was in the agenda, and I understand it was a single line item that says appoint planning and zoning. I'm just saying that this is a big appointment. How long does it land? How long does the committee stand once you appoint it right now?
I believe it's
3
years, right?
So it's a 3-year appointment.
Well, but the mayor can, I mean,
At the mayor's leisure.
the mayor can actually remove anybody anytime. So it's really a plenary authority that the mayor has over the P and Z.
Mhm.
You can fire them all. You know, to quote Bill Janko, fire everybody.
Don't give me that authority. Wait, I don't need authority. I don't vote on anything. Okay.
Are there
Rebecca?
Yes.
It's Chris Hutzler. I just want to take a minute just to pause, and Jim Wendland, 25 years of commitment to the city of Baltic. I just want to take a minute and say thank you. That is no small feat, and your dedication and all that you've done for our city and upheld laws and rules and everything else, just thank you. And I think it's just really important to acknowledge you for everything you've done.
Well said.
Yeah,
Thanks, Chris.
definitely. So is there a specific timeline, or is there something pressing that this committee needs to be appointed tonight? Or is it possible that you can explain to people, hey, what it is, what's expected, and then give the opportunity for other people that might want the opportunity to be considered before you, as a brand new mayor, not even for 2 hours, could actually make an educated decision? I guess that's the question I'm asking.
I guess I'm gonna defer that to you.
I think you wanna try and find the best talent pool for the committee. I don't,
I mean,
you know, waiting a month.
P and Z is an incredibly important group of people.
Special.
There's-
Yes.
Well, I'm just saying because she's brand new
But it's,
and she's got to make this
Your
incredibly
call.
important decision.
yeah, sorry.
But don't you have a zoning meeting coming up the first of next month because of that new development? And you sit here and wait for people to get appointed, that could be an issue with that.
I was just gonna say the timeline.
Yeah, the timeline is what,
I,
I
waiting a
agree.
month, so.
Do you
we
have
can start
anybody
out
that-
special.
You are thinking of or that has reached out?
In the last hour?
Or- No, just to the council in general recently.
I was actually going to see if anybody that is existing on there wanted to stay on there. And there's 2 right there. They just said it's me. And there's a third. And then I have to assign 2 of you here. Is literally what I was going to do. Because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, I need to trust that these good gentlemen know what they're doing. And then I need to appoint 2 of you to join it because that's what our ordinance says. That's exactly what I was going to do. I had to do the due diligence to ask if anybody was, interested in it because I don't even know who would be. So,
If you make a motion to wait till Friday, I guess logical question is, how do you plan on getting in touch with every person in the city?
That's what I was.
yeah,
Utilize it.
Well, don't you have the new text tool?
But not everybody signed up, though.
It's, yeah, I mean, it's just only as good as the people that are on it, same with Facebook, it's only as good as the people that have it.
Well, you can make appointments tonight.
yes,
Right.
Yeah,
I'm
but
willing.
I do believe giving people.
You still have 1 to fill, you need 5, right?
yes.
But there's 3 people here.
So you can make your appointments tonight, there's 4 of them here. I don't know.
But
Yeah.
the 3 that raise their hand and then.
So then you-
3 and then 2 city council members. So the 2 city council members are obviously me, Brendan, and Travis, so that leaves her 2. So she literally only has 3 spots left to make appointments for
public
city,
anyway.
for public.
Well, and to address the question, it's impossible as a city to communicate with every citizen unless it's on the water bill, right? It's impossible. But at least if you reach out via social media or the text tool or on the website, and at least you're creating a larger circle than this room.
Well, and I believe our rules state that if it is posted 24 hours in our places that we're supposed to, Dell's paper on the front door and everything, we've done our due diligence per the law, correct?
Yeah,
But I don't.
you want my 2 cents?
Yes, please,
I
I'm looking at you.
I think there's been enough change, and I'm concerned about losing continuity if we open this up.
Why?
And this is a tough, I mean, I tell you what,
I don't think.
And here's my thought process on it, just, you are right, I am new. So for me to appoint someone that is interested in it, I don't know what that requires for P and Z because I've never dug into P and Z. So for me, my natural guts, the instinct is to keep the 3 that are sitting here
Well, that's
and then
yours.
add my 2 here, just because I need to trust that they know what they're doing. So that's gonna be my appointment. I'm going to appoint
Exactly.
Dreyer, Doug Burns, right? Did I say that Burns, right? And what was your name?
Dean Scott Bolden.
Scott Bolden. And then I'm going to appoint Carrie and Travis to be the 2 on there.
There you go.
Because that was the legal issue, wasn't it? Or-
Yes, because it's every 3 years the mayor is supposed to appoint and reappoint or reappoint. So, and this is something I'm learning as I go as well, so I have to trust that they know what they're doing.
So when is the next planning and zoning committee?
I don't know. Do we know, have that even been, I don't think it's been set based on that I had to appoint this right now.
Okay.
What that one?
The next meeting,
No, everything was canceled up until this meeting.
up until this meeting.
Based upon the findings of the ordinance that says. we need
So
to-
when is it communicated when the next meeting is?
The P and Z meetings are typically the Monday before, city council meeting.
They usually, yeah, it should have been last night,
So since it wasn't last night, are you gonna have one, because there's pressing issues, when is that gonna get communicated so people can go if they want to? I don't know how that works.
I think P and Z has a responsibility coming up here shortly, don't they?
I believe so.
Yes.
So it's imperative that you have one in place tonight.
And based on what Deb said, I guess I would look at putting, we have an election coming up. It's not gonna cost anything else to add that to it. Hey, by the way, we should possibly look at anybody interested in planning the zoning from the city hall and talk. I mean, some way, like you said.
Start that conversation.
Yeah, at least start that conversation.
Absolutely.
Let's just not do a double lung and a heart transplant the same night.
Yeah.
Like we did earlier. Okay, so the three of you and you two, I guess I have to set a planning and zoning meeting tonight so that we can move, how does Monday, the 18th, or I can't do that, can I? I don't know, you tell me, I can't do that.
The planning and zoning has president,
Well, not yet, because I just assigned them, okay.
so they can decide now to set their meeting and we can put that out there for everybody to be there.
Okay, you guys can decide when you want to set your meeting, and then we can put that out there. Because there isn't a president, you all five have to.
Correct.
Or you have to have a majority, I would assume, right?
Next Monday is President's Day, so that's a
Yep.
holiday, so let's not do that. Is everybody comfortable with the 16th, Tuesday the 16th?
Oh, my wife's birthday, I should probably not.
She's fine, what are you talking about?
From experience strictly.
Hey, you know what? He knew her birthday. That's awesome.
Wednesday, obviously being a religious day, how about Thursday the 18th?
That was one of the backup days.
I think it was one of the backup.
It was one of the backup days before we had to stop this. Okay, so right now we will plan for the P and Z meeting for 2/18.
At 7 p.m.
Julia sent something out.
Julia will send something out, yep. I don't, what is the time normally, 6:30 or is it 7?
Thought it was 6 for those.
Or
Usually
6?
met at 6 or 6:30.
6 or 6:30? Okay. Does the mayor have to be there?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, moving on, next is the first reading, ordinance 282 for the wards and voting precincts. Do I have to read this whole thing?
Thank God you already explained it.
Just have to read the title.
Ordinance number, thanks, John, for your service. Jim, sorry, we really appreciate you, John.
I just read the
Too many people
title.
in here.
Just
Okay.
read the title once. So I-
City of Bald Lake, South Dakota, an ordinance amending Title III, Administration, Chapter 34, Boundaried Wards and Voting Precincts of the revised ordinance of the City of Bald Lake of South Dakota is what we are reading for wards and voting precincts. So basic.
We're pink and blue.
Yes, pink and blue, this is what we discussed earlier, right?
Fine.
Basically, this is going to marry up to the pink and blue map, or the other way around.
It's gonna make the words match the map.
The words are
Yes.
gonna match the
Just
map.
to clarify, it
The
does
verbiage.
say in these that the ward shall be described by stating a certain street. But it does clarify down further that if the words are wrong on it, you should look at the city board map. This is not, I've learned, I know this.
Woo-hoo.
I know this now. So, that is one big thing, is that these words don't mean really as much as the actual map does.
Right, okay.
And all the other maps are getting burnt.
We don't need, this is just a first reading, so we took care of that. We all understand what we're talking about. Okay.
You know, the only question that I have, Tracy, is, I mean, I don't think there's a need to do a special meeting to have another reading.
There's not a pressing matter.
Yeah, so, okay, all right.
At this point, there isn't, okay. D, addresses for AT Analytical and Old School Gym on Third Street. I'm assuming they're the same and someone's having a problem with that, is that correct?
No,
No, Bill can address this one.
what's happening here is the post office requiring an emergency number. Basically, for
Oh, 911 address.
Okay, I've talked with Tony on this. He's got suites that he wants to use. But what we're gonna do is change from where the analytical building is,
Mhm.
will become 501.
Okay.
Where the school gym is,
Mhm.
will become 503.
Okay,
Then he'll have suite
A, B,
A, B, C, or
et
whatever.
cetera.
He's got names for them or numbers.
Okay,
I just texted him and stuff he's working on, but when I confronted him with it a while back, then he told me, he said, sorry, I couldn't get back to you. He was in the hospital just getting over gallbladder surgery that went
No,
down.
okay.
So,
He's okay.
he's still trying to recoup.
Okay,
himself.
so we just need to be aware that they're changing addresses for 911 and that should be taken care of based on what you just said. Perfect. Okay, well, that concludes city council.
That's a doozy.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Thank you, Brenda.
Do I have a second?
I will second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Well, thank you all for coming. I appreciate you all.
Thanks,
My
guys.
name is Scott.